Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Marvels, which is the 33rd installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as a sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, which went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Now, if you guys checked out my previous video covering the Marvels, you would have actually heard me cover this key point that I'm also going to reiterate in this video. There is a big reason why, when you are talking about these things, you must actually put out the context surrounding a situation. Because if someone is trying to push a narrative on you, you could easily just apply context to their narrative and just destroy it. So you guys know how people like to say that Captain Marvel went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office? That's factually true, but people like to forget this very key piece of context that I'll mention here, and I also mentioned this in my previous video covering the Marvels, which is the MCU at the time was a very big impact on movie theaters, not just in 2019. It was also a big impact as the years kept building up, leading up to Avengers Endgame. Now, toward the tail end of the Infinity Saga, when you were getting to Infinity War and you are getting closer to Endgame, the movies that came before it were also box office smash hits. I mean, just in the same year that Infinity War came out, Black Panther itself went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Now, what they did for Black Panther, and the same thing they did for, Captain Marvel, this is what Kevin Feige did that I really liked back then, was they strategically put out movies at a certain point in time, knowing they could capitalize on that specific moment. And that is what applies to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was sandwiched in between Infinity War and Endgame. So that means you would naturally go, okay, I have to see this, and the marketing around the time for Captain Marvel pushed it as a must-see movie before you watch Avengers Endgame. And since people who had been basically with the MCU or toward the end of Phase 1, beginning of Phase 2, they would naturally go and watch the movie because they know the first saga of the MCU was about to end, and they will just basically just watch anything. Now, keep in mind, another piece of context is the reception surrounding Captain Marvel is very bad. Like, I challenge anyone, go and talk to someone actually, whether it be in real life, whether it be on your podcast, who really likes that first Captain Marvel movie. I've never met someone in my life that has actually liked that movie, and I've seen it. It's not good, right? Now, since this movie, The Marvels, doesn't have the same type of luck scenario that Captain Marvel did have back in 2019, this movie would also just by default do way worse because a lot has changed since 2019. So the big difference between 2019 and now is that the landscape based around how people just generally view the MCU is a whole lot different. First point is, ever since Phase 4 began with Black Widow, I mean, the reception for the MCU movies have been pretty bad for the most part. The only one I thoroughly enjoyed, start to finish, was just Spider-Man No Way Home. And for the Disney Plus MCU shows, the only one I liked was Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now, I know people are going to be like, you liked Falcon and Winter Soldier? I did. But then again, a lot of people have their favorites in there, and they usually just have 1 out of like 10, which is pretty much a failure. But you guys see my point there, right? Now, when you're looking at how much people view the MCU now, they're not going to get that guaranteed money like they used to. And even the money that they did get that was guaranteed, it still didn't make these movies profitable. I know people see like the surface level number of some of these box office, worldwide theatrical runs and look at them and go, oh, that's really, really good. They must have made a lot of money. No, a lot of those movies, even the ones with impressive numbers, barely broke even and at most barely made money. Not profit. Made money, just not profit, which is something completely different, actually. We're talking just in straight business terms. Now, another thing I want to bring up here, when regarding to the Marvels, is people in general. So, most people are just not very confrontational in general to a certain degree, to the point where they're going to go out there and say how much they didn't like the first Captain Marvel movie. But they'll rather do this. When the sequel rolls around, they're going to be like, nah, I didn't really like the first one. No reason for me to go on Twitter and say why I didn't like it or any social media platforms. They'll just simply go, or obviously say to their friends or family, I didn't like it. So rather than dealing potentially with like backlash from your peers or people on the internet, they'll just not watch. And we're seeing that in real time. And you have like the shill media coming out, and there's people, blaming men and all the instapho buzzword language like they like to use. But in reality, people just aren't interested in Captain Marvel or Brie Larson or Tiana Paris or Iman Vellani. Also, Tiana Paris was introduced in WandaVision in 2021, not used until now. And Iman Vellani just got introduced to Ms. Marvel last year in her solo Disney Plus shows. So in order to basically understand the new characters they just introduced in this movie, you'd have to watch the Disney Plus shows, and you'd have to basically sit through Captain Marvel, which I don't wish on my worst enemy, right? So there's just so much different things you must apply to now versus then, right? Then the other thing to understand is that people are going to bring up, well, they couldn't market the movie because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. People knew this was coming out. They just didn't choose to go see it. You know how like your local movie theater will like email you and you'll get all these like promotional ads about the newest movie coming out? They promoted this movie. People just didn't go watch it or don't want to watch it and rather just watch it on Disney Plus when they drop it on Disney Plus in about 2 months or maybe a month, given how bad the reception at the box office is actually going to be. This movie has a budget of upwards about $250 million. This is going to be an absolute bomb, Box office. The Marvels gets grounded with MCU's second lowest opening day ever. That's pretty bad. What a difference 4 years makes. When Captain Marvel hit theaters in March 2019, it landed what was then the 7th highest domestic opening weekend across the Marvel Cinematic Universe entries with 153 million, a colossal figure that only one 2023 release, Barbie, has exceeded. Now, people are out, there's the show media out there blaming like men and stuff like that. Well, I mean, the Marvels' demographic, just based on how you look at the movie and how it's marketed, yeah, like men are gonna watch superhero movies, obviously. But since this movie has 3 women leads in it, it is literally geared toward women. Its demographic is women. Why didn't women show up and watch this? I guarantee you, when the box office ticket sales get counted for like the genders of people that actually went and saw it, 2 genders, right? Male and female. We'll see. And if there's more men that chose to watch this than women, that means you can't blame men, because the narrative is like, oh, we can only blame men. Let's see those numbers. Let's see those numbers. I'm not talking about the actual box office numbers. I'm talking about the percentage of people that bought the tickets. If it's more men than women, yeah, it's because your audience is... Superhero stuff is mostly geared towards dudes. Like, I'm not saying women can't like this stuff, but it's mostly geared towards dudes. I mean, didn't a bunch of dudes go out and watch Wonder Woman? I mean, there's plenty of people that have watched female-led movies for years. Just men, right? Scream, Halloween. Like, there's so many examples of this. Barbie is another example, right? Now, several superhero entries later, its new sequel, The Marvels, likely won't be able to reach even a third of its predecessor's debut. Yeah, because this is supposed to have basically a low opening weekend, as about as lower than The Flash or even like Black Adam. That's bad. The comic book film landed the second lowest opening day gross ever across the 32 features in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, earning $21.5 million from 4,030 venues. That's pretty much almost the highest amount of venues you can have for a big blockbuster tentpole. That includes $6.6 million in previews. It barely surpassed 2008's The Incredible Hulk, which holds the record for the MCU's lowest domestic opening day at $21.46 million. That means this movie almost did as bad as a movie that literally came out about 15 years ago. And that's hard for me to say, because that makes me feel very old at this point. And falls behind series starter Ant-Man, $22.6 million, not adjusted for inflation. If The Marvels doesn't pick up the pace, it will trail behind the opening weekend grosses of both those films, $54.4 million and $55.7 million respectively, to secure a franchise worst debut. Those are some concerning numbers for Marvel Studios. The once bulletproof production banner has earned nearly $30 billion at the box office since 2008, but has faced a downward trend in theatrical returns and various behind-the-scenes headaches in recent years. Even so, The Marvels hitting a superlatively low debut would come as a especially tough sting, given Marvel still scored two sizable openings from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, 106 million, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at 118 million earlier this year. And there's also the hefty 220 million production price tag to account for on the Marvels. Yeah, just basically putting out something that has the MCU branding attached to it, just not secure money. And that is pretty much solidified with the Marvels coming out in 2023. Reviews for the superhero entry have been pretty lukewarm, especially compared to its 2019 predecessor. And audiences aren't exactly feeling enthused either. As indicated by the B grade through research firm CinemaScore, it's not a disastrous reception, but it continues an alarming downtrend for Marvel entries, which have often tested higher among early moviegoers. I think CinemaScore is crap. I think any movie that really gets a B should be relatively fine. B movies are fine. Anyone saying that B movies are not fine is stupid. But I don't count CinemaScore for nothing. I don't even, because people factor in, even back then when Captain Marvel was released, Rotten Tomatoes essentially just changed how it even functioned as a review site for the most part, right? And for most of the early reviews for this movie, they've only really praised just Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, which I think she's charming. She's looking like she's having a lot of fun. You know, I do like her for what it is as Miss Marvel, but that's just an MCU interpretation of her, right? But people really are only just praising Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel. That's it. That's it. They're not praising the story, the action, the dialogue, the score, the pacing, nothing. All they're doing is just praising her, which is fine. She probably deserves a praise. I think she's awesome. But it's like, you can tell just by the review that's a bad movie. Now, am I still going to see it? I have my ticket set for this Tuesday, so, you know, fingers crossed I'll have enough time after work to go and see it before Tuesday's big showdown. It's not a disastrous reception, but it continues an alarming downtrend for... I read the same thing, sorry about that. Nia DaCosta, who directed Candyman was bad. That Candyman Legacy sequel is bad, actually. Took over directing duties for the Marvels. The action-adventure spotlights a team-up of heroines, with Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, Tana Paris as Monica Rambeau, and Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, crossing over after debuting in separate Marvel projects over recent years. And yeah, this is just really bad, honestly. This is really, really bad. I mean, you have plenty of other movies also failing around this time too. But just looking at just how bad the Marvels is doing right now. I mean, what's going to be the excuse this time for people? I mean, I just only wonder what's it going to be. Going to blame men this time? I mean, this is marketed towards women. That's 3 women leads. Pretty sure a lot of women should show up for it. Oh, but fun fact, women don't like this either. It turns out most women just liked it just the way it was before they started race swapping and gender swapping a whole bunch of things. Yeah, you know, come to find out, shocker, if you start doing that, a lot of people will start not wanting to see your products, and it's happening in real time with one of the biggest franchises, if not the biggest franchises, in Hollywood history, which is the MCU. And yeah, we're also going to have to see the overall total numbers for this movie, because it's Veterans, it's a holiday weekend right now, it's Veterans holiday weekend right now, so we'll see just how this will play out come Monday. But yeah, this movie is doing absolutely terrible at the box office, and I mean, I'm not surprised. And if anyone says it wasn't, they didn't hear about it, it's lying to you. They're just not interested, and I'm glad we won't get able to. I'm glad, saying this right now, we won't be seeing any more Brie Larson-led movies, because they're gonna absolutely just be like, nah, no more of that. Captain Marvel 2019 was lucky when it hit that number. It's not a good movie. This one, about 4 years later, it shows people obviously saw through the marketing that the MCU did. But then again, does lightning strike twice? Guess it doesn't. But thank you guys for checking this video. I have plenty of more content coming. Just make sure to, if you enjoyed this video, if you're checking out for the first time, like this video, comment down below, and ring the notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of the amazing content I have planned coming out for you guys. And I will see you guys later. I'm MSK, and I'm Master Swag King. I'm signing out, guys. Peace.